Tom Atkins.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello. Oh, such a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us. How has Richmond been treating you today?
I've been to hello. Yeah, that works.
Yes, sir.
I've been to Richmond numerous times. It is a darling town of the South, and my friend Michael Goodwin, an actor, lives here. I have no idea why. He moved back here from California, I think, because he was offered a season at Virginia Rep Theater here in Richmond. He did one season, and he decided to move here.
I love it. I love it.
So he lives, has a house on the edge of the Fan, near the Boulevard statue, and the museum. And he and his wife and I had dinner last night at La Mer at the Jefferson Hotel. Very, very nice. It was really grand.
I love that. That's awesome.
I've been here a lot, and I like it.
We're so glad that you're with us today, especially. There's so much of your resume that we could talk about that we are all fans of. There are a couple of special things that I kind of want to start with, specifically how you got started. So you didn't really start acting until after you came out of the service. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's amazing.
And, I'm a chatty Cathy when I get going.
Let's go.
I'm deaf as a rock for hearing questions, but once you get me going. So, how did I get started?
Yes.
I got out of the Navy in 1960. June. Oh, yeah, nah.
Thank you for your service.
It was a wonderful time of growing up. The Navy, 2 years on a destroyer out of Newport, Rhode Island. We got to go over to the Mediterranean and up and down the East Coast and Cuba. It was all swell. So guy, the executive officer on the ship came up to me in the ship's office one day and said, "Tom, you're a wonderful sailor. We'd like to keep you here. Re-enlist." I was an enlisted man. And I said, "No, I love the way you guys dress. I love the way you get waited on and served your meals, and you have your own cute little wardrooms to live in. And I'm bunking with 60 guys up forward on 3 high bunks up and down canvas things. No, I want to go to college because that's the only reason you're an officer is you went to college and I didn't." And so he said, "I'll help you write letters." I said, "I didn't know you need letters to get to college," but nobody wanted me because my high school record was terrible. But Duquesne University, a Catholic college in Pittsburgh, said, "If you could pass the SAT and you have the money, come on down, we'd love to have you." So I went there and I fell in love with acting at Duquesne by dating a girl who I wasn't getting my fair share of her time with. She was always at this damn theater group, the Red Maskers, and she was always in rehearsal or performing or something. She said, "Will you come over and join the Maskers and we'll see more of each other?" And I joined the Maskers and played a cop, first role, Time of Your Life, a William Saroyan play with about 50 people in it. And I had a wonderful time. And I saw more and more and more of the theater and less and less and less of her. And when I got out of Duquesne, I thought, I really want to try this. So I went to New York, went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for 1 year, where Spencer Tracy, Robert Redford, Danny DeVito had all gone, and it worked out. I got an agent because they showcased their productions. Had some lady come up to me after one and said, "Would love to represent you, my husband and I, and be your agent." And I said, "Sure, get me a job and you could be my agent." And they said, no, we could get you the audition and you get the job and then we'll negotiate a contract for you. And I said, okay, and it worked out, and I got the first job I auditioned for, a David Merrick Broadway play, a little kitchen table play, where I was, Maureen O'Sullivan was the mom, and Patrick McNee was the husband, and I was the gentleman caller from next door who wooed their daughter. And it closed in 4 days, so it wasn't long on Broadway, but I just kept going from then on and getting more and more jobs, and that's how I became involved as an actor.
I love that. Make some noise for that, y'all. Fantastic, fantastic.
It was kind of serendipitous, you know. I wasn't really looking to be an actor. I was looking to be a journalist, and ended up being an actor.
You told great stories no matter what. That's the thing. You were great at communicating feeling and emotion to people, so that works out very well. You've had a ton of work either on stage, on TV, or film. Do you have a preference between stage, TV, or cinema?
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, I think every actor probably gets asked that.
Absolutely.
Kind of question somewhere in their life. And I love doing all of them. But here's the main example. I found myself working all the time in theater. That's where I started. I went to New York and I worked in theater, and I started right after the first year. I ended up in New Haven, Connecticut, at the Long Wharf Theater, and for 6 seasons, 6 years, and working also up at Hartford, Provincetown, Louisville, Kentucky, all over the place. But I thought, I have this dying VW in the driveway of a shack. I called it the shack, but it was a very nice cottage house across the street from Long Island Sound on Cozy Beach Avenue in East Haven. I was working all the time between Long Wharf, New York, Williamstown, Mass., the greatest summer theater in the world, where we did real plays like Chekhov and Ibsen, and, you know, not the usual Red Hot Lovers or Summers or crap. It was good, excellent theater. But I didn't have money. I mean, I had money, I was making a living, but, and here's the serendipitous way that started happening.
Right.
So I found myself after 8 years or so in New York doing Fat Jack Falstaff in Henry IV, 1 and 2 Shakespeare play out at the Goodman Theater in Chicago, directed by William Woodman of the Goodman. And during the play, the kids who were subletting the shack called and said, "Tom, the landlord stopped by and he's selling the shack. You have to move." I said, "I'm in Chicago." So he owns all the furniture. You take my clothes and fishing rods and posters on the wall and take them over to Alfie Rocco, a guy across the street who I used to go fishing with all the time out in the Sound. So they did that, and I called my agent, and I said, Susan Smith, at the time, Susan, the guy sold the shack, so I don't have a place in the East anymore. No, that's okay. Don't come back here. I'm going to open up an office in L.A. Just come right out to L.A. So I went to L.A.
Wow.
But wait, that's not the end. So I leave, I'm driving my little red VW that is still dying, but it's goable. And I go up to the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis after I finish in Chicago to visit Len Cariou, who was playing Lear, and Chuck Chiaffi, who was playing one of the other roles in Lear at the Guthrie in Minneapolis. And I swear to God this is true. I go into the office, and there's a guy sitting there, young kid, sitting at a desk with a phone on it and some papers. And I said, I'm here to see Len Cariou and Chuck Chiaffi. And, oh, yeah, well, they're in rehearsal, but they'll take a break in about 10, 15 minutes. Just sit down over there and wait until they come out. I said, okay. The phone rings on his desk. Right as soon as I sit down, and he says, hello? Yes? Yeah. Wait, you're Tom Atkins, right? I said, yeah, it's for you. And it was Susan, my agent. She knew that I would go there and visit Chuck. And she said, I'm so glad I found you. Don't come to LA. Go to San Francisco. They're doing a production of The Cherry Orchard, and they want you to play Lepakin. Bill Ball saw you play Lepakin at Williamstown, and I forget, Dana Elcar got a movie, so he can't do it, and they're going to do it in Hawaii. I said, get out of here. Do I have to pay for this? And she said, no, it's a job. So go to San Francisco and rehearse for a couple of weeks, and then they'll go to Hawaii, and you be along for the trip. And when you get back, then come to the office, and that's how I got to LA, and that's how I started making a decent buck in TV and movies and films. Isn't that a good story?
That's a great story.
I love that story.
I know, I love that. That's absolutely amazing. When it comes to movies, one of your first movies was with the Frank Sinatra. Is that correct?
That was my very first.
The very first movie.
Very first job. I got a call. It's another good story. I'm going to write a memoir. I swear to God, because I got a call from Susan. She said they want to see you for The Detective, a Frank Sinatra film. It's going to shoot here in New York. Gordon Douglas directing, and meet the people at the Sherry Netherland Hotel, where he was. It's all first class with Sinatra. Oh my God! So meet the people at Sherry Netherland Hotel, and she gave me the time and thing. And I got up there, and there's a guy in the hall, a guy,
just one.
And I said, "Where's everybody else that looks like me that's up for this role?" And he said, "Just you today." And I said, "Okay." And he gave me the sides of the scene with Sinatra, and I looked at him, and he said, "Need a couple of minutes?" I said, "No, I think I'm ready. I'll go in." And he said, "Okay." So we'll go into a room, and there's Gordon Douglas. "Hi, Mr. Douglas. We have a chat and a meet, and hello, and how are you? Where are you from? And yada yada." And then I said, "So, who am I going to read with you?" The kid, he was still there, and he said no, and he went out back where he came from, And Gordon Douglas got up and walked over an adjoining door, knocked on it, and in comes Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
So we did the scene, and at the end of the scene, it went pretty well, I thought. And at the end of the scene, Sinatra kind of winked at Douglas and said, "Good job, kid," and kind of hit me on the shoulder and went back out into the room he came out of. And Douglas said, "Well, you got the job, so congratulations." And he said, "I only have one question. Can you act that nervous when we shoot the scene?" And I said, "My God, yeah, for free I could do that." Oh my God, it was right. So but it was absolutely right for the scene, because I supposedly shot a black guy in a car reaching for a driver's license, and I thought he was going for a gun, and I killed him, and the whole city lit up. So I was on the carpet in front of Sinatra, and his last line to me was, "I have my eye on you, Harmon," and then he left. So that's how I got that job. Yeah.
When it comes to genre, you are in a lot of things, from detective things, there's a bit of horror, psychological. Do you have a favorite genre of movie or story to tell?
The horror stuff, I never sought that out either. It just kind of happened. I was out in LA a little bit, and I was living with a girl who ended up being my first wife, Garn Stevens, who was a dear friend of Adrienne Barbeau, because they were both in Greece together back in New York, and Adrienne was dating John Carpenter, and she called Garn and said, "I want you and Tom to come to this screening at the Directors Guild over in Hollywood that this guy John Carpenter directed. It's called Halloween, and we are seeing each other, and it's getting serious, and I want you to give me your opinion of him kind of through this film." So we go to see the movie, and it's me in the middle, Garn next to me, Jeannie Russell, who is a wife of a restaurant owner in the Fairfax district, and I swear to God, this is him during most of the movie. Can we look now? Yes, look now. Oh, you son of a bitch. I swear to God, they were like that. And they leaned across me at the end of the film and said, "We cannot let Adrienne marry this guy." I loved the film. I thought it was the scariest, it was a thrilling, frightening movie to me. I loved it. And they ended up marrying.
They did.
And they had a beautiful son, Cody, and we became dear friends, and it wasn't too long after that that John offered me the role of Nick Castle in The Fog, and that's how that all started. And that, yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite scary movie?
I have my favorite scary movie that I ever worked on was The Night of the Creeps. It's my favorite. We had more fun doing that than anything. And Freddie Decker, I thought, wrote and directed a wonderful film. I'm sorry it didn't do better when it opened, but it's like Halloween 3, it has grown and grown in popularity.
Absolutely.
Cult fandomness, I guess you might say. It's my favorite. I had the best lines in the world in it. Oh my God. every time I answered the phone, I said, "Thrill me," and walk into a scene and say, "Is this a bio-crime lab or a bad B movie?" And well, girls, I got good news and bad news. The good news is your dates are here. What's the bad news? They're dead. Oh my God, it's a joy. It's been a joy. And you know, there was a while after about the fourth or fifth one, I thought I'd kind of like to become the new Vincent Price of these films. And then I had watched him many times and admired his work, and I thought, no, I'm never going to be a Vincent Price. And there's a sense of genteelness about him that I cannot act. It's not in me. And one day I'm having a pastry, which I often did about every week for a couple of months near the Cedars-Sinai Hospital in LA, a little pastry shop, bakery, and I'm having a coffee and a cherry Danish, and I'm sitting at the one end of it, and in the door comes Vincent Price, who goes right up to the counter and gets a bag of good sweet stuff, and goes out, and I'm too intimidated to go over to him, and I don't want to. I hate being interrupted myself when I'm doing business at a cash register, you know, and I didn't want to do that to him, but he goes out of the store and walks up the sidewalk right toward me, and I rap on the window, and I say, "I love your work," and he said, "I love yours too." And he popped a pastry in his mouth and smiled and kept going up around the corner. I had a feeling he lived near there or not far from there and probably regularly did that and obviously had a sweet tooth. Yeah.
I would have stuck there every day just in case I got to see him again.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely amazing. I do want to invite you guys to line up to ask a question if you're open to it.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Just one more thing.
Please.
My favorite movie to watch of all time is Casablanca with Frank Sinatra, Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Claude Rains, Sidney Greenstreet, Peter Lorre. God, I love that movie. And I watch it every year around my birthday, which is any day now in November.
Just
so
next
I
month.
gotta,
That's right.
but my favorite way to watch it is alone in my family room with a bag of Lay's potato chips and maybe a Stella beer or a Coke, and no wife, no dog, no children, no grandchildren, no nothing. Just me and my friends from Casablanca. And I sit and cry and say every line in the movie with them, I think.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, that's...
Again, I want to invite you guys up, but while you guys are making your way, so have you ever been to Rick's in Morocco? Have you ever been overseas to Rick's in Morocco? Have you ever gone to the actual place?
No.
Oh,
no.
you gotta do that.
I never have. I've been overseas in the Navy. I was over, but I've never gone to Rick's in Casablanca.
Yes, I think you would
love
it.
It exists.
Absolutely,
it's still there.
I went there for the first time this spring. So
really,
highly recommend. You've
no
got to do
kidding.
it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, we do have a question. Hello, friend. How are you?
Yeah.
Doing all right. Tom,
Big Eddie.
Yep. You were on Rockford Files as semi-regular, and I know one of the opening gags was the answering machines. Were you ever one of the voices on the answering machine?
Oh, that's a great question. Were you ever one of the voices on the answering machine at the start of the Rockford Files? Did you ever do one of the voices to start that off?
No.
Ah, okay.
No.
No?
No, I am not part of any. You know, somebody said to me yesterday, "You have such a great voice. My God, it's so..." And I have never in my life done one single voiceover commercial or for anything.
What? Would you want to?
Nobody's ever offered me a job doing.
Somebody get on the phone right now. Let's offer Tom a voice actor job.
I would love to, but I've never been offered that ever. I have no idea why.
Huh. Let's change that, okay? We're gonna work on that.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello.
Hey, Mr. Atkins, as I said when we met before, big fan. Just wanted to ask, is there any, sort of a generic question, but is there any big famous role that you've never gotten to play that you would have really liked to?
Oh, that's a great question. Is there a very famous role that you would have loved to play that you hadn't gotten the chance to do, but still kind of burns for you?
No. Not, honest to God, yeah, the short answer is no. And that's another kind of question that every actor gets asked somewhere in his life. And for a while, I did a lot of plays at the Pittsburgh Public Theater where I live. It's their regional theater, 600-seat, really great theater. And this guy, I worked the very first season, 1975. I played McMurphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the Jack Nicholson role, and it was great. Wonderful show. And but anyway, they're often, many times, usually once a year maybe, I do a play there. And for 17 years of those years, from 75 to 2015, a guy named Ted Pappas was the artistic director of the theater, and I did a one-man show there called The Chief, about Art Rooney Sr., the founder, owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And oh my God, it was the role of a lifetime for me. It was wonderful. And when they first mentioned it to me, they said, we want you to play, two guys wrote it, and they both had me in mind for the Chief, because I actually bear somewhat of a resemblance to him when he was alive. And we are both from the great north side of Pittsburgh. Him for a lot longer than me, but well, now not that many years longer, but longer life, from the turn of the century to 88 years old in 1988 or 9 or something, he died. So I said, I don't know that I wanted to. It's a one-man show. It's an hour and a half, no intermission, just me telling stories as him, and much less about football than you would think, much more about his life and his family and growing up in Pittsburgh and the city and horse race tracks and gambling and shooting craps and stuff. And there were so many guys came to that, Steeler fans in their gear, but they brought their wives, and the wives loved the play. And the guys loved the play, but were disappointed that it wasn't all about football. And it was an experience of a lifetime for me. I just loved doing that. And during the same 10-year stretch that we did it every year, I did Scrooge in musical Christmas Carol Around the Corner for the Pittsburgh CLO, which was also a role that I just treasured, and it was so much fun. Oh my God. But Ted would often say, don't worry, we'll get to your lair. We'll see your lair. And the longer we were together and doing stuff at the Festival, I thought, the hell with Lear. I don't give a shit about Shakespeare. I don't care about Shakespeare that much. I could live without him. I told Ted, my dream role is the stage manager in our town, if you want to do that. And he did do that, so yeah, I have no role there is a role that I would love to have played that I was offered and could not do. And I'll tell you that, I'll make it a short story because I know you're all getting
That's
bored.
all right.
But I was doing a Broadway play called The Changing Room, a David Story play, and The Changing Room is a locker room over in England, and we were a rugby team. And I was Walshy, the jokester on the team, and a good player forward. And Kathy Houghton, who was the niece of Katharine Hepburn, Kathy and I had done Sabrina Fair up at Ivoryton in Connecticut, and I played the Humphrey Bogart romantic role with her as Sabrina, and it was a delight. She came to see The Changing Room, Kathy, and brought her aunt, Katharine Hepburn, along to see the play. Now, in the play, there is a brief moment, because there's hot tub and it's the changing room, where all the guys are totally naked for as long as it takes to come out of a hot bath and a hot tub in the back and put your clothes on, take your towel off or robe off or whatever and put your clothes on. So Katharine Hepburn came, and she was going to do The Glass Menagerie for TV with David Susskind producing it. And she liked me for the role of the gentleman caller, because she had seen, I didn't know it, but she had seen me and Kathy do Sabrina up in Connecticut also a couple of years earlier. So I went to audition with her and David Susskind in a building. It was, I don't know if it was, I think it was a CBS production, I'm not sure. But it was in New York, and I walked in as she was coming out. And I said, oh, Miss Hepburn, Tom, oh my God, I love your work. I just admired you for so long. Yeah. And she went off to the bathroom and came back in, and she read the girl part, and I read the gentleman caller for David Susskind, who was sitting over there behind the desk. When we were finished, she was bawling halfway through it, sobbing. And when she finished, we finished, and David's at the desk, nodding and shaking in his head and smiling and grinning. And she said, David, that is acting. And they offered me the role. But I could not get out of the changing room.
Oh, man.
I could not buy my way out. I could not get out of the changing room. And a kid named Michael Moriarty went on to do the role.
It's a great story. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Of course. Hello.
Hi. We met 30 years ago. You came into.
You and I did?
Yeah, you came into my. I was working as a bartender at the Santa Monica Bar and Grill, on the promenade.
Wait. Who was the bartender where?
At the Santa Monica Bar and Grill in the promenade. This was like 30 years ago. It was like,
Oh my God.
and and it was funny because, like, you know, when you work in Santa, you see a lot of actors, and you always have, you kind of let them have their space. But it was so great. You were so great. Like, because I walked up to you because I knew your whole filmography. And you were like an open. I mean, it was one of the greatest conversations.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
You were so wonderful, and you talked so much, and I was so fascinated. I guess my biggest question, that I wanted to come up and ask was, I'm a big fan of. It's funny how you've ended up in a lot of directors' masterpieces. Mm-hmm. Like their masterworks, like John Carpenter, The Fog is considered his masterpiece. And William Peter Batley, you were in the Ninth Configuration.
That's right.
And
oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, and what's amazing is that when I was out there, and all with all my other, there was a lot of stories going on about the Ninth Configuration and how much acting you guys were actually doing. I mean, there were a lot of crazy stories about Joe Spinell and Jason Miller, and I was wondering if you had any stories that you could share that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Ninth Configuration, Christ, we could be here for 2 days. It was a life-changing experience for many men. Mm-hmm. Peter Blatty was crazy, I think. He wrote a wonderful script. I don't think the script he wrote got onto the screen. He wanted a good ensemble effort of acting. Mm-hmm. So he took people who would have worked 2 weeks on a regular movie in the States to Budapest for 2.5 months. And we had to be on set in costume every day, whether we were working or not.
Wow.
Or on the call sheet or not. He wanted people to be down there in costume. So there was a sequence in the film. I played a Marine, and Stacy Keach played. I was a sergeant, his sergeant, and he was the commandant of this wacky ward where all these guys were. But there was a sequence where I was a Nazi black SS uniform, freaking gorgeous, scary uniform, handmade boots with a German Shepherd on the end of a leash. And I had to sit there hours, and you go outside to get something to eat. People would look at you weird because they didn't have a good experience with the Nazis during the war. Oh, gee, and this was 78. It was still behind the Iron Curtain. It was a communist-run nation and not happy. Everybody had a job, even if it was like sitting in a museum where there would be a little old babushka lady in this chair at this door, and right on the other side of the door was another babushka lady in the chair, and they were guarding the artwork in that room. And across the room was another babushka, like that. So, oh my God, but the stories, okay, so here's my favorite story. And probably Stacy Keach did not start in that role, in that movie. Nicole Williamson was a commandant. Mm-hmm. He's an English actor. He played John in Robin and Marion with Sean Connery, Audrey Hepburn, Nicole Williamson. So he was having a little trouble with the American accent. He was also in the middle of divorce with his wife in England, so he was on the phone all the time. No cell phones then. Mm-hmm. It was a hotel phone or a pay phone or phone wherever you could find one, and talking either to his wife or to his attorney, barrister, and It's behind the Iron Curtain. It's a kind of Russian controlled, so you always felt like you were being followed. And the most irritating thing was you'd be talking to your wife, he'd be talking to his attorney, he'd be talking to his wife in California and England or wherever, and the phone call would just go away.
What?
You'd be in the middle of, Garn, where'd you go? Garn? Gone. Same. It happened once too often with him. We were now at the end of the first week of shooting. He ripped the phone out of his hotel room wall and threw it out the front window into the street 5 floors down. We were up on the Buddha Hilton Hotel. And he then proceeded to throw every single thing in his room that he could squeeze out that window. And the suits are coming in from outside, they're coming up, they're banging on his door. He got kicked out of the country. And Blatty is going batshit. My God, I'm at the end of the first week of shooting. Principal shooting is done, and he's my star. We don't care. Unacceptable behavior. He will go home. And he went home. So they bring in Stacy. The very first day of shooting, Michael Moriarty is playing the astronaut who's afraid to go into space. He and Blatty have been Catholic godfather, godson for 3 years.
Wow. Working
Working on this movie, talking about this movie. They get over there to Budapest, and we're all on the set, first day in costume, and the scene is with Nicole, Moriarty, and Eddie Flanders. Wonderful guy, dear friend. I miss him to death, Eddie. And so he's concerned, and they're having a discussion. And Blatty says, "Okay, everybody ready?" Neighbor has done it a couple times. Action. Bill, I don't know. I'm not sure, says Moriarty. Jesus, come on, Michael. We've talked about it for 3 years. Come on. You know you're okay. You're ready with, I don't know. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Action. I don't know, Bill. I don't know. You're fired. First day, you're fired. You're gone. Michael's gone. And then they do a big scramble. We wrap. We go back to the hotel, get out of costume. He does a big scramble, and Scott Wilson, who was playing a smaller part, gets bumped up to the astronaut. And then at the end of the first week, Nicole's gone, and Stacy comes in.
Wow.
So near the end of the filming, Joe Spinell is an actor in it. And Joe has a reputation from being New York and being a genuinely connected person who was a leg breaker for one of the Italian mafia outfits in Manhattan. And he and Jason Miller are great friends, grand friends. And Jason is just hopelessly drunk, as many of us were many, many days and nights there. And we're all in the 6th floor bistro cafe at the top of the hotel, drinking. Jason, there was an American legation, not an embassy, but a legation or some kind of a building there where we often would go and dance and drink and hear people talk with English and American language, because Hungarian is impossible. You don't know what anybody is saying. And Oh my God. So Jason, on one of those nights at the legation dancing, falls in love with this girl. He's meanwhile married with 2 children in D.C. area or somewhere they live, and but he falls in love with this girl. Now this night at the bistro, he is hammered, and Scott Wilson, me, Moses Gunn, and Joe Spinell are at the bar. The girl is with the Zairian ambassador and his entourage across the room at a big round banquet. And Jason's standing at the bar mumbling, "That son of a bitch. I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her." Spinell says, "Jason, there ain't nothing to it but to do it." He takes off, runs across the room, through the tables, dives at the girl, comes up short, and lands right on top of the table. And the Zaire ambassador is punching him in the back of the head. "You American bastard, you American bastard, you American..." Joe Spinell grabs a bottle, walks calmly across the table, smashes it over the Zairian ambassador's head, who stands there completely unaffected by the busted booze bottle, waving, little glass bits and pieces out of his hair, saying, "You American bastard, you American bastard, you American bastard." And then Scott, Moses, me, all decide, I think we should probably leave.
Yes.
We should exit the building. And we did. And as soon as we're walking out, these guys are pouring in trench coats and hats, and honest to God, it was like a bad movie. And Spinell and Jason made it to Blatty's room and knocked on the door and said, "Bill, I think you're going to have trouble in a minute." And they left and went right to their rooms. And then he was in the same boat. But meanwhile, now we're almost finished with the film. And the government wanted to kick Spinell and Miller out of the country. And Blatty pled with them. And they said, "Okay, you could stay," but Spinell has to move to the Gellert Hotel down the hill, and the other one stays up here, and they can never see each other except on the set. And so that worked out. But
They got grounded.
It was just endless stories like that. And Blatty ended up getting divorced, and a girl married. Pepsi-Cola somehow had money invested in it, so she married the Pepsi-Cola representative who kept coming around. And, oh my God.
I would watch that movie.
I have often thought the making of a movie about the making of the Ninth Configuration would have way more fun than what turned up on screen.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That is incredible. Ladies, I am so sorry we have hit our time limit, so please come see Tom downstairs at his booth. But before we get out of here, can we do a stage selfie where we've got a photographer? He's going to come up, and I'm going to invite you guys, especially the ladies that didn't get a chance to ask questions, if you want to come up here and kind of be up here in the front, I'm going to give you that spot. And Tom, we're going to have you stand here and face this way.